So here we are, Harry, back with an equipped episode. I'm still Aaron Garner, and you are
Harry Lansley.
Still excellent.
Yes.
And today, I think we're going to be talking about something a little bit different because it caught our eye in the news last week, I believe it was, or the week before, I can't remember, but we've been talking about it. And that is the act of potentially banning the act of lying in Parliament, and in particular in the Welsh Parliament, so the Senedd.
Yeah.
Senedd. I'm not Welsh, I don't speak Welsh, but I believe it's pronounced Senedd, something like that. So the Welsh Parliament have decided that they are going to attempt by 2026 to bring in a law that bans lying in Parliament by the members of the Senate. So
yes.
What are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, it's had mixed reviews. So from politicians, in Wales, I think there is quite a lot of support for it, but then a lot of concern about the grey area of what is a lie, and I'm going to ask you a little bit about that in a second. But then there's been a lot of people who were very against it. So I think Nigel Farage came out and said, this is an attack on freedom of speech, which was an interesting approach. But if we bring it back to, I guess, what is defined as a lie, what is it that they're actually trying to ban? Because within politics, there's so many variables of, you can have pledges. For instance, we had the Labour government coming in saying they weren't going to raise taxes, and then they got in there and they raised taxes. So would that fall foul of this new law, or would they deem that as sitting outside of it? So what's your understanding of where that threshold is?
Yeah, it's difficult with pledges, isn't it? Because a pledge is made at the time, but they can always use that kind of rationale of, yes, but the economy has changed, or yes, we realise the size of the whole of the deficit, therefore we unfortunately can't do that. We didn't have that information previously. So there's always that card to play with regards to pledges, I suppose. But when it comes to defining a lie, they've already got an existing law, I believe, from back in 2024 in Welsh Parliament, saying that it is an offence to make a false statement in elections. So making a pledge based on information may not fall into that category, but saying something that is factually incorrect, inaccurate, knowingly, is important. We'll come back to that. I think the knowingly bit is very, very important. But, we define a lie using the definition of a deliberate intent to mislead without giving prior notification. Yeah. So again, we have that deliberate element. So that's the thing that's going to be hugely important for this law to be judged, because it is going to be independently judged, in that there may be a false statement being made.
Yeah.
So it is misleading people. But did they intend to do that, or was it a mistake, or were they given false information? So that's where there will always be a grey, which is going to be one of the reasons it's going to be very difficult to police, I think.
Yeah, this one of the examples I think the main advocate behind this used was, it would be like a politician saying, I have never met this foreign leader, and then a photograph comes out with him standing next to the foreign leader, and he's like, that is just a clear-cut lie that would fall foul of this. Yeah. But based on what you just said, within that, you could just be like, I forgot. I was at one of those big conferences, and there was loads of people, and I was just taking photos with everybody. So it almost becomes really difficult to police.
It's the intent is the issue, right? So it's in all law, in order to charge someone, in order for someone to be guilty of an offence, you have the act and you have the intent. So actus reus and mens rea. And yes, the act of lying or a false statement being made that is later proved to be false is the act.
Yeah. But
then you have to prove that they intended to mislead by doing that. But if you then say, well, I didn't realise, that's who you meant, or I thought you meant someone else, or anything else. Now, that's down to an independent person to decide. So it might just be that person that makes that decision, again, which we'll come back to, is the person that decides whether that's a justified excuse, if that's a good reason, to say you didn't intend to be deceptive.
So who have they said would be the judge of this?
Well, a judge. So
judge.
yeah. So it's an internal process. So the theory is that there's an internal body, and this is a judicial process. And the problem being with that is that the members of the Senate, so the MS, we would say MP in the House of Commons, but in the Senate would be the MS, they are elected by the population. So these people are elected. This has happened, but they're being judged by an appointed person, not an elected person. So you have someone that's external, but is appointed and not elected. So that person has quite a lot of power. And
who gave them that power?
And theoretically, are they objective? They should be, because all people in that judicial process should be, obviously, whether they're magistrates or judges, whatever. But yeah, so you have someone that is appointed making a judgment on someone that is elected. So there's potential around the ethics of who's doing that, or should we have a say in the people that are making those? Well, not us, but the Welsh populace.
Yeah, and I guess that with the Welsh population, so this is saying the decision of whether someone is guilty of breaking this law of lying. And lying for, I guess, personal gain or party gain or whatever. That's coming from a third party. I guess right now, that kind of mechanism exists. It's not legal, but it's determined by the population. And the population have the power to either vote for someone or not vote for someone. Yeah. So I guess it's, at what point does it make sense for people to be punished at the ballot box versus being published legally?
Yeah.
I guess ultimately they'll get both. If they get punished legally, they've also got the opportunity to get punished by the ballot box.
Yeah, and I mean, there's if people are, especially if they're kind of serial deceivers, and they're causing lots of problems like that, you have things like votes of no confidence and those kinds of things that can be called. So, if people are really badly behaved, then the public will there'll be an outcry from the public, which then could cause votes of confidence, things like that. But yeah, you're right. The current system for managing who our elected officials are is already theoretically something that
kind of works already.
That works already. Do you need this external? Now, I think, and many think, not just me, but I think it's a move in the right direction, because there is a lack of trust in politics in around the world generally, not just in Wales. So I think by putting these sorts of things in place, regardless of how easy it would be to police, it's a signal to the public.
Good intentions.
That coming back to intention, that the Senedd has an eye on it and is trying their best to do something about it, however easy that may or may not be.
Yeah. I guess the concern with a law like that is the way that they're addressing it right now is they're putting it on themselves, so the responsibility is on themselves to not lie. If that did get put into a law, how much easier would it then be to apply that externally, or get back into to apply that externally to, let's say, the public or to CEOs of organisations? And at what point does that stop? So we're being held accountable for potentially lying. We think it's appropriate that the head of Apple or whoever is also accountable, because they're as influential as we are. And then at that point, it becomes dangerous, because that is a massive power that someone they could use it for good. But it could be used in a really bad way as well. It could be used, we see what's happening in America and how influential that power can become. And the fear is, once you've kind of rolled that snowball down the hill and said, look, it's cool for politicians to have that, at what point is it cool for everyone else to have it as well?
Yeah, because there's already arguments that, yes, it's coming up in the Welsh Senate. So if it does go through there, will it happen in Westminster? And then you're right, if it happens in Westminster, could it then trickle down? And then is it an offence to lie, full stop, not just in a parliamentary context? And if that is the case, then we really have to go back to that definition of, of lies, because...
But it can be misinterpreted in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like, if you typed in the definition of a lie on Google, you'll probably get over 10 different definitions of what lying is.
Yeah.
And if people want to, they could label a magician as a liar or a poker player as a liar. Yeah. And it's like, at what point does it just get silly?
Yeah. Hence the part of the definition that we use, which is without prior notification. So when you see an actor that is pretending to be someone else on stage, they're an actor, they're not a liar, even though they're pretending to be someone they're not, because we have prior notification that that's what an actor does. When you play poker, you know that people are going to be lying, but it's called a bluff, and so on and so forth. So you've got that element in there. But the other thing is, lying is important, right?
Yeah.
So for society to work, because if everybody told the truth, it would end up like that episode of The Simpsons back in the day when the whole town was on fire at the end. But some would argue, philosophically, that we should always tell the truth. But I'd be interested to know how many lies you've told in the last 24 hours, those people that are listening, because you've probably told a few white lies and those kinds of things. And we can track this back from a government point of view, even back to Plato in Republic, when he's talking about the noble lie. And the noble lie is the concept that the government should, and it is appropriate to lie to the population in order to manage society and prevent panic. Yeah. Because if MI5, MI6, law enforcement, all those kind of just advertised everything that they were looking at with full transparency to say, these are all of the foiled, terrorist attempts and others, people would be paranoid, because what goes on behind the scenes and is looked after by people that insulate us from that dark area, if the population knew about it, that it would be a very different world.
Yeah. And I think this is the thing about how it's applied. So you referred to a previous law in Wales where you can't lie during...
Making a false statement in elections,
In elections. That I think we can all get on board with. We kind of saw how that can play out during Brexit and everything. And I think those types of lies to gain a competitive advantage, they should go punished. Maybe not in law. Hopefully people do it at the ballot box. But it would be naive to think that everyone should know the secrets of the agencies in charge to keeping us safe.
Yeah. And then the punishment's interesting. You just mentioned the punishment. The punishment's interesting as well. So if you're caught lying, it's 14 days, isn't it?
Yeah, so you've got 14 days to issue an apology, I believe, or a correction. Mm-hmm. And if you fail to do so and the judge deems you as actually lying, then a 4-year ban, I believe, a 4-year ban from Parliament would be the punishment.
And this is proposed, obviously, because it's not gone through yet. So that's
there's loads of steps to happen, and people aren't confident that it'll push through in the way that it currently is because of just the greyness of what a lie is, and also what that policy could even look like.
And 14 days is a good amount of time to come up with a really good excuse, right? So so it's worth. I'm not saying it is worth doing, but a politician might decide that for the soundbite or to get that initial swing, it's worth it, and then pre-plan your apology if you get caught doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's something that could happen, but it's plausible.
Yeah.
And the other fact is the statement they're making written by them, or has it been written by a PR team that's given it to them? So are they then accountable for checking the statement that the PR team has given them?
Yeah, you have to sign off the script before you read it out.
So there's lots of steps that from a judgment point of view on act and intent, coming back to that point, there's a few gaps that might be considered here, and one of the other areas that I was thinking around is the cooperative principle part of when someone's engaging with a conversation, like me and you having a conversation, we engage, and I assume you are going to cooperate in this particular conversation, in that what you tell me is going to be true, what you tell me is going to be, you're going to give me the right amount of information, it's going to be clear and unambiguous and relevant. So those are the key things, the Groysian maxims that we talk about on the Master's Programme. And so we're already talking about the quality. So is it true or not? The quantity, the amount someone says, and the manner. Now, the manner is important because the way someone gives information. So they might say something along the lines of, because as we all know, the Right Honourable Gentleman likes to look after his taxes.
Yeah.
Now, by saying that in a particular tone of voice, they could poke at another member of the Senate or Parliament, if it was in Westminster, and that statement could infer that they are doing something a little bit dodgy.
I'm calling you out without calling you out.
Without calling you out. But they're not lying, they're just saying that they look after their taxes. So could this not be bypassed by artful inference
yeah.
and implying something without actually saying it outright? So this might just be something that good speechwriters then play on, because this happens already. So won't they just ramp up that level of inference?
Snidiness,
I think there's lots to consider. I don't think it will go through easily, personally, but it's definitely interesting to think about how we lie, how elected officials lie, and how this sort of law might impact trust that we have in politics. So then, Harry, banning in law lying by parliamentarians in Wales, is it a good thing?
The intentions are good, I think, but I think it can be weaponised too easily. And I think it could begin a process that would actually harm the UK, in this case Wales, but let's say it rolls out, would harm the country where it's implemented more than not having it in the first place.
Yeah, equally, I think it's a good move. I wonder how much of the move is impression management, in that, like, look at us trying to raise trust in politics, but I see it being quite impractical. And yeah, I'm not sure. I would need to see more to know how robust it would be, how easy it would be to police. And then I think you'd need a couple of cases to know, okay, so that's what actually happens. Oh, it does actually happen. Not that I want people to go through that and I want people to lie and then be banned.
Yeah.
But I think until you see it in action, it will be difficult to know. And then to see if it actually goes through without having so many appeals against it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I think it's right. I think anything that helps us hold the elected officials that we have accountable for what they say, so that we have the right information to make the right decisions, I think it's brilliant. I just don't know how easy it would be to police and manage, and everybody lies. So,
Well, this is the thing as well, because who else gets an advantage of our governments being forced to always tell the truth? All the other leaders of all the other countries who we might be in conflict with.
Yeah.
So we're giving a competitive advantage to our competitors.
Ooh, valid point. So maybe this should be a global law.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen.
Well, it'd be interesting to know what everyone else thinks and find out what their thoughts are on politics and deception, and whether this law is something that should be implemented more widespread around the UK and maybe internationally. But we will see.
We will.
Excellent. Until
Thank
next
you,
time,
mate.
take it easy.